morning. This is Jamey at Stonemeyer Games, and I am here on Wednesday, December 22nd. I always have to look at the date, even though it's just a few days before Christmas. I should know the date at this point, but I hope you're doing well. I am here as usual for about an hour to chat with you, to answer any questions that you have about pretty much anything that's non-spoiler. It could be personal, it could be something that you're just working through right now, or it could be related to Stonemeyer Games and gaming in general. I have a little bit of Stonemeyer Games news to share, not a lot today, but a little bit. And I have some random topics, some things that I've been up to lately that I might talk about a little bit as well. Um, so what is going on? Good morning, Dominic. In a non-Stonemeyer related comment, I saw Spider-Man in the theater the other day, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the movie, the new Spider-Man movie. It was the first time that I've been to a theater in nearly 2 years. I love movies. I've been paying for all these streaming services and paying for movies as soon as they come out on digital streaming. But in the pandemic, I've been really hesitant to go to the theater, and it was an okay experience. The theater part itself. We wore double masks. We never took the masks off the entire time. Like we literally bought popcorn but couldn't eat it because we were in the theater full of people. We didn't want to breathe that air. And so we just sat there with a full bag of popcorn and ate it hungrily when we got home. But the movie made it worth it. I mean, it's a really, really great movie if in my opinion, if you love comic book movies and if you kind of grew up watching the Spider-Man movies. So it was fun to get back to the theater and have that experience overall, despite the double masking. Good morning, George. Good morning, Tony. Let me know if you all have seen any movies in the theater in the last year or so and how that experience went for you. Um, Speaking of media from the other side of things, I've been on a few podcasts recently. I don't think they haven't been released yet, but I think they will soon. One, I chatted with Alex from the Dukes of Dice. We had a nice interview about the pandemic's impact on the gaming industry. We had that chat, I think, last week. I don't know when that will go live, probably this week or next week, maybe. And then yesterday, I spoke with Jack at the Cardboard Herald about one of my favorite games, Terra Mystica. We just spent 20 minutes talking about why I love Terra Mystica, basically, and Jack's thoughts about Terra Mystica as well. I don't typically do podcasts solely about another game that's not published by Stonemeyer Games, but every now and then I'm happy to jump on for a game that's had such a big influence on me and my games as Terra Mystica has. It was fun to do that. So those are two channels, the Cardboard Herald and the Dukes of Dice. I subscribe to both on YouTube. I think there are various ways to get that content, but YouTube is my preferred way to get that content. Tim says that he's hoping to see Matrix Resurrection soon. Yes, I'm really excited about that. I think it comes out in theaters and HBO Max today, and so it's possible we'll watch that tonight if I'm correct about the HBO Max portion of that. I'm very excited to see that. We intended to rewatch the original trilogy leading up to it, but there's been a bunch of other things that we've been watching that's been kind of keeping us busy over the last few weeks. And inevitably, we've watched a few Christmas-themed movies and holiday-themed movies over the last few weeks as well. So that's kept us from watching the original trilogy. But I really enjoy the original trilogy, especially the first movie. I've seen the first Matrix dozens of times. I feel like it was on constantly when I was in college. Frank is joining us from the City of Games. Hey, Frank, good to see you here today. Garden says, is there an update on the shipping containers? So a couple different updates there. Some of which are somewhat non-updates, unfortunately. So Canada, I've been really pushing our logistics provider in Canada to let me know exactly where the container is. All they've kind of been telling us for a while now is that due to the mudslides in Canada, or in Calgary specifically, where our fulfillment center is, that the containers got backed up at port. But it doesn't completely make sense to me. I mean, maybe there's something in terms of logistics that I'm missing, but it doesn't entirely make sense that the containers will be stuck at port. I mean, I'm guessing what it is that the truckers can't pick up the containers because if they do, they can't deliver them because of the mudslides. But I don't know if that, like the mudslides, I think happened like a month ago. So surely they've been cleared out to a certain extent at this point. So I don't have an exact update. If you're asking about Canada Garden, I am investigating that every day because I want to know where those containers are. I'm hoping that they are still on their way. But this mudslide situation is increasingly weird. As for the U.S. containers, we are getting better and better news. As far as I know, most of the containers that were stuck at port in the U.S. have now been released and are on the way. They're in different stages. I think there's one that's going to arrive this week, one that'll arrive next week, and one that I don't think has been picked up yet, but hopefully it'll be scheduled for pickup soon. So all of those containers are getting a lot closer. We also have a few products that are out of stock out in Australia and the UK that we are currently restoring to those inventories, but it'll take a little time for them to get there as well. Those aren't entire containers; those are smaller shipments on the way from the U.S. I think that covers it. Let me know if I messed up in their cart and garden. I'm happy to let you know any information that I know about these containers. I've been anxious and stressed about them for a long time, and I appreciate those of you, especially those of you in Canada. Actually, no, two groups. Those of you who ordered things like the Metal Mechs and the Wingspan Neoprene playmats and Wingspan Oceania back in October when I thought they were going to be back in stock within a few days. Thank you for being patient. I really, really appreciate that. And thanks to those in Canada who pre-ordered the Tapestry expansion 3 weeks ago now, and we've been waiting 3 weeks for your shipping notification, and are still waiting because those containers haven't been arrived. I really appreciate your patience. I after this experience, I think it's going to impact us in a few different ways. Namely, that I really need to never open a pre-order unless the shipments have actually arrived at the fulfillment center. And I've said that in the past, and then I think things are going to get better, and they don't. Like weird things like this happen, and so I really want to remove any future uncertainty from that situation and just wait until all of the products that we are ready to sell have actually arrived at the fulfillment centers, and then do the pre-order, even if that means delaying the pre-order for everyone else for a month or so. I think that's you all have plenty of games that you can play, plenty of other things that you can get wrapped up into. So that's, I think, the approach that we're going to take in the future. But I'm open to your feedback about that. Long answer there. Quince says that he also saw Spider-Man last night, and he said the theater was way too packed for his liking. He said the other ones that he saw usually had only 5 or 10 other people in the theaters. And yeah, that's the odd thing about it. Like, one of the reasons I was excited about Spider-Man is that it felt like everyone was going to see it and everyone was talking about it, and I felt like I was missing out, and I didn't want anything to be spoiled because I had avoided watching anything about the movie. And at the same time, that for that type of movie, it's going to be a fairly crowded theater, and it was in our experience. But that's why we double masked and just kept the mask on the whole time. So Tim confirms that the Matrix Resurrections does come out on HBO Max and theaters today. That's awesome. Jim says, just wanted to send greetings from a subscriber. Greetings to you, Jim. And Chad also says greetings. Hello. Madison. Okay, here's some news from someone who's actually in Canada. Madison says the roads are completely destroyed. It's not a matter of roads being cleared. There are no roads in some places. Wow. Okay. So that is really good to know. Thank you, Madison, for clarifying that. So it isn't a problem of, like, in my mind, I picture a bunch of dirt covering up a road. That's not the case. The roads have actually been some of the roads have been destroyed and need to be actually rebuilt, which takes quite a bit of time. So is there no way in or out of Calgary right now, Madison? That's, I guess, where I'm struggling a little bit. Are there circuitous routes? Like these containers they arrived in Canada a month ago. And so is there no way to get things or people in and out, or cars, trucks in and out of Calgary at this point? I guess that's part of it. Yeah, I mean, surely there must be a way. But that does sound really rough for those of you who are impacted by those mudslides. Yeah. Nick says ham or turkey for Christmas dinner. Well, Nick, I am largely a vegetarian, so it'll neither be ham nor turkey for me. I don't really actually know what we're having for Christmas dinner. It'll probably be a fairly normal dinner. Maybe salad and nuts and seeds and berries and things like that. Tim says that he and his wife celebrated their 10th anniversary on Sunday. Congratulations, Tim. That's wonderful. He says they played Rolling Realms and went axe throwing. Very different activities there, although both kind of in the gaming realm. That's really cool. Yeah, what was your axe throwing experience like, Tim? I've never done that. Never done that. Paul says, Merry Christmas. Thank you, Paul. From Scotland. He says, we've enjoyed a large number of your games in 2021. Long may it continue in 2022. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate that. Hopefully some of our games have brought you all joy in 2021, and hopefully we'll continue to do that in 2022. Madison very forgivingly says, you can't plan around a weather disaster. It's not really anyone's fault. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. And I know, like, our little shipping hassle it pales in comparison to how this is probably impacting the people in Calgary. So I think that the thing that I'm kind of saying here is there are things that there are unexpected things that can happen, unexpected delays, but the only point of certainty that I can have is when games actually arrive at a fulfillment center. And so it's just kind of a reminder to me that I can't count on really anything anymore unless the games have actually arrived at the fulfillment centers. So, um, and I never want to keep you waiting. So I guess, I mean, either way, people might end up waiting. So, for example, I'll give you an example here. There is a new game that I'm really excited about that I'm excited to announce in early 2022. But we typically announce new products a month before we open the pre-order. And I increasingly have my doubts that this game will arrive when I thought it was going to arrive at fulfillment centers. And so I need to actually delay the announcement of it, or I will most likely need to delay the announcement a month because I think that the game itself won't arrive at fulfillment centers until a month after I originally thought. I'm being intentionally vague here because I don't know. I don't know these things until the games are actually going to arrive. So just a lot of things that I factor in, and I'm trying to make sure that those of you who are excited about what's coming next for Stonemaier Games, or excited about a product that you've already pre-ordered, like the Tapestry expansion in Canada, that you don't feel like you're waiting. I prefer I don't mind if you anticipate something a little bit. That's fun, that's exciting, and that's why we try to have that announcement just a month before the pre-order. But waiting for some reason feels a little different to me than the fun of anticipation. Yeah. So I'm trying to manage that to the best of my ability. Chad says that he went to the Friday morning showing of the Spider-Man movie at 2:30 p.m. He says there are 15 people max. The earlier you can go to the movies, the better. Chad, yeah, we went actually to a 2:45 showing, and there were hundreds of people in the theater. So maybe it depends on the location too. Madison clarified that it's not in Calgary where the mudslides are; it's in British Columbia. Okay. Yeah, Vancouver is the port that we use on that side of Canada, so that makes sense. And Tim says the containers arrived in Vancouver, but there was mostly one highway across the Rockies to Calgary. Do you all know? So those of you who know about this, what is the timeline for fixing that highway? What are they looking at this point? Ivan says there's a new show called The Wheel of Time. Yeah, have I watched it yet? I can picture a Stonemaier game with that theme in the future. Many people love The Wheel of Time a ton more than I do. I enjoy The Wheel of Time quite a bit. I've read most of the books. I'm really, really enjoying the show. But I think my level of excitement for The Wheel of Time is like here, and some people have it like way up there. And so I don't think it's a good fit for Stonemaier Games to make a Wheel of Time board game. However, I am really enjoying the show. It's on Amazon Prime. And yeah, we just watched the latest episode last night and had a lot of fun watching it. They're building up to, well, I mean, I've read the first few books. I've read the first 6 books and then the last book. And so I know what they're building up to this season, but I don't want to spoil it here. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. I hope you are too, Ivan. Lucas says, you are Canadian. No, I am not Canadian, but it's very kind of you to say. That explains your openness and being kind. I'm not Canadian. No, I live here in St. Louis. I am an American. Yeah. But I try to bring joy to tabletops worldwide through my company. And so Canada is just as important to me as the U.S. is. Same with the rest of the world as well. Madison's been very helpful with this information in the comments. She says there are huge detours, but the main highways have been majorly impacted. Okay. Yeah, that's rough. That's really rough. George says that he is impressed with the insert of the Tapestry Arts and Architecture expansion. A lot of care went into designing all the small details to hold everything so perfectly. Even a big box would be available. I would still keep the expansions in their boxes with those amazing inserts. Thank you, George. Yeah, Panda's gotten, it's really great to work with Panda on these inserts at this point. So Panda designed this insert. They sent me a couple different versions of it, and I tested it out and offered some feedback on it. And yeah, I'm glad you're happy with the final product. Tim says that axe throwing was a lot of fun. He says he was surprisingly good at it for his first time, and he said his wife improved over the night and beat him in the end. He would love to go again. That's really cool. Yeah, I need to try that sometime. Frank here, another publisher and designer, he says, a short while ago I had some containers placed on a boat. Unfortunately, the crew caught COVID and the boat got canceled. It took over a month to get the containers back to China before I could find another ship. Since then, I've assumed nothing will arrive until it arrives. I think that's a great lesson for me to hear, Frank, given the circumstances that we've been through lately. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's devastating. Where the ship is, ship leaves and actually has to come back to find a new ship that can take those containers. That's really rough. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that is really rough. Let's see if there's any other Stonemaier game. Oh, Stonemaier Games news. I want to give a huge shout out to Dave, our web developer, and Joe, our director of communications. Most of this was on Dave, but Joe helped out quite a bit too. But we launched our new US/international web store today. So over the course of 2021, we've launched storefronts for Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. Separate storefronts for each of them. And the US has kind of, we've always, previously to this, we just had one storefront. So if you went to our web store, you would go to one single storefront. You would see games in USD. You wouldn't necessarily see the inventory, but you were buying from a single supply of inventory that maybe wasn't relevant to your region. And we've now broken off into all these different web stores so that if you are in Australia, say, you can buy in your local currency. And if a product is out of stock in Australia, you can't, you wouldn't be able to purchase it. Or if a product is in stock in Australia, but it isn't in stock in the US, you can purchase it there from that web store. All this leads to, we finally launched as we launched all these different web stores, we updated the kind of the behind the scenes stuff. And some of it on top on the superficial stuff like the layout and how we showcase different products and different collections of products. So we updated that for each of these new web stores, but we hadn't updated that for the US web store. So if you're curious to see what the new web store looks like, go check out if you're in the US, so you haven't seen this yet, go to the Stonemaier Games web store. It's on our website, and check out the new layout. I think it's really nice. Dave did a wonderful job with it. And if you catch any glitches, feel free to let us know. But I think the transition after setting up all these other storefronts has gone pretty well so far. I don't think it'll have any huge impact on those of you who are used to going to the US web store, but you might notice some little things that are different that provide a better user experience, because that, in the end, is our intention here. And that actually segues over to a blog post I wrote on Monday about the different visions for the future that Kickstarter and GameFound recently posted, where GameFound seems very focused on the user experience, both backers and creators, and Kickstarter is focusing on blockchain for some reason. And I'm sure they have some reasons. Hopefully they are ultimately focused on users, backers, and creators, but it just seemed there's a pretty stark difference in what seems to be the focus going forward between Kickstarter and GameFound. GameFound, I really appreciate how they're focusing on the user experience. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was interesting to write about and see those differences. I also wrote, I did a year in review post for Stonemaier Games, where I went month by month and highlighted a few kind of big things that happened month by month over the course of the year in Stonemaier Games. That was last Thursday's blog post. So if you want to see kind of a quick recap of what happened in the last year at Stonemaier Games, what we released, big articles that we posted, big things that we talked about, or that we tried, that we implemented, that blog post is from last Thursday. And last, my video this past week on Sunday was the top 10 games that I would recommend to you if you love viticulture. And the video works the other way around too. If you haven't played viticulture, but you've played a bunch of the games on that list, then you probably like viticulture too. So if you love viticulture and you're looking for something else that maybe feels a little bit like viticulture or has some similar mechanisms to viticulture, feel free to check out that video that I posted on Sunday. Maxime says, any news for a release date for the Wingspan European expansion on Nintendo Switch? So we got news the other day. So we get the news at the same time that you do from Monster Couch. If you look in the Wingspan Facebook group, last week, Monster Couch started posting that they are working on, that they are very close to releasing the Steam version of Wingspan European. I think they're in beta testing right now, but they're not too far away, maybe a few months away at this point. But based on what I've seen from them in the past, it's Steam and then iOS and then Android, sometimes iOS and Android at the same time, and then Switch. So it'll probably be mid-2022 is my best guess, but I would just pay attention to what Monster Couch says. They're the ones that have that information, and they share it with everyone at the same time. We don't have any sneak peeks about that information. Monster Couch is the digital rights holder of Wingspan. Garden says, I was hoping to order the metal mechs and a neoprene mat before the champion discount decreases to 20%. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll be available by the end of next week. It is possible. I mean, we will, as soon as they actually arrive, we will definitely put them back on the web store. We're not trying to do anything tricky with that discount changing on January 1st. But yeah, we don't want to run into the situation that we ran into a few months ago where we asked people to order stuff and we didn't actually have that stuff yet. So it's going to be really close. Maybe I'll I'll talk to the guys about just going ahead and putting it on the web store on late next week. I'll talk to them about that. I'll make a note. Thank you, Garden, for asking about that. I don't want to. I want to respect your wallet, but also respect your time in terms of not selling you something that we don't actually have in stock yet. Yeah. Okay, some comments about the kittens expansion to the Isle of Cats, which I am also really getting excited about. But Frank says that was on a different shipment. Frank from the City of Games. Chad says, as a designer, he's loving the new polished look of the web store. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for checking that out. Anyone else? I'll be here for another 40 minutes. So if you were to feel free to check out the new web storefront, the U.S. web storefront for Stonemaier Games. And really, it looks the same now as the other storefront. So if you were in Europe or Canada or wherever you are, you can look at the storefront. You'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah. Kim says, I think GameFound will be the winner for board games. They can focus on features specific to gaming while Kickstarter needs to be general to cover all industries. I agree. I totally agree that Kickstarter has a big range to cover, and that GameFound may just win on board games. I do know at the same time that games, I think, are the biggest category on Kickstarter, and so games are pretty important to that infrastructure and that interface and that platform. But even games aside, it's always interesting to see a company talk about. Some companies talk about how they're focused on something that doesn't seem to directly impact people, the people that make that company work. And then you have a company that come out with the same like GameFound did that I really respect. And they were like, all of these changes, we're working on these specific things because we want to make our platform better for the people who actually use it. Really, like I said in the article, I'm hoping that is eventually what Kickstarter is getting at as well. And they kind of say that a little bit in the article, but they aren't. It's so abstract how a shift to the blockchain will impact a backer who shows up to back a project or a creator who shows up to create a project. My only guess that I put in the article is that maybe by doing that, by decentralizing Kickstarter a little bit, it will allow third-party developers to create kind of mods of Kickstarter within the Kickstarter platform. And so there might be a mod specifically for gaming. So a developer might come in and say, okay, here we're going to create something where you can have built-in stretch goals and all the things that creators have been wanting and backers have been wanting on Kickstarter. Maybe they'll allow that modding will be allowed within the blockchain, but I don't think they needed a blockchain to do that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a developer. I don't really know. Maybe there's some benefit I'm missing. Tim says, have I ever painted miniatures? It's something I'm looking into for next year. I never have. No. I love seeing when people paint beautiful versions of miniatures, especially Stonemaier Games miniatures, but it's never been something that I've wanted to pursue. But yeah, I hope you have fun with it. And it looks like people have had a lot of fun doing that. Been playing a lot of games recently. Here's one that I just played yesterday. It's called Philosophia Floating World. I'm going to do a video on that. And I also recently played Ark Nova a few more times. Still loving that. I got Floriferous to the table and filmed a video on that one this past weekend. We hosted a game day on Saturday for all of our vaccinated friends, and we had a wonderful time. It was wonderful to have quite a few people in our house for the first time in quite some time. We also played Isle of Skye. Isle of Skye, one of my favorite games, but I don't get to the table often enough. That game will always remain on my shelf, but I don't play it often enough because I don't play it two-player. I want to play Isle of Skye with 3, 4, or 5. We got to play that, and I got to play Honey Buzz again. Loving Honey Buzz. Wonderful game. Looking forward to that expansion next year. Joshua says, any plans for playing any games over the holidays? I think that's what you're trying to say. Any plans for playing games over the holidays? He says, I have promises for my kids to play Tapestry with Arts and Architecture this weekend. Yeah, I'd love to turn that question back around to all of you. As you enter kind of probably a holiday weekend or week for some of you, what games are you hoping to get to the table? Some longer games that maybe you normally can't play, some shorter games, some 2021 games you haven't got to play yet, some new games, new expansions. Let me know in the comments what you are excited to play. Because I had this big game day this past weekend, I played a lot of the games that I really was eager to get to the table. So I'll be looking through my shelf to see what I will be playing this weekend, but I don't have anything particular in mind. Oh, a friend did lend me Cascadia. So I haven't played Cascadia yet. That was another 2021 release. So I'm very curious about that. I don't know if it'll be exactly my style of game, but people seem to really love it. So I'm excited to give that a try. So that is on my table, and I'm curious to try that one. Dusty says, as the person who knows Biddy and Walter, in fact, Biddy is, let's see if I can see, move this way. There's Biddy right behind me there. Dusty says, as the person who knows Biddy and Walter better than anyone, what are you hoping their New Year's resolutions are? I'm hoping, so for Walter, he has hairballs sometimes, and usually they're right in the middle of the night. But he had one the other night that was right when I would normally wake up. And so I got up to swoop him off the carpet, off the bed, and make sure he threw up on the floor, had the hairball on the floor. And then I was able to just get up and go about my day. And actually, it wasn't too bad. Usually, I do that at like 4 a.m. and then have to fall back asleep. So Walter, I hope his New Year's resolution. I don't mind that he has the hairballs. He needs to do that. He needs to get that out of his system. But I hope he does it right at wake up time from now on for my wake up time. So I appreciate that. As for Biddy, I think he's just working on trying to stay healthy as a 15-year-old cat at this point. 14 going on 15. He'll be 15 soon. So his weight right now is around 17 pounds. So he probably should lose another a pound or two to stay within a healthy range for a cat of his age and size. So yeah, I would say that's maybe his resolution. David says, any update on Canadian film fulfillment for arts and architecture? Yeah, David, I mentioned it earlier in this live cast, but a quick update is, in fact, I've learned a little bit during the live cast that there are some highways leading from British Columbia to Calgary that have been destroyed by mudslides, and that is what is holding up everything at port. And so far, everything, as we know, is still at port, and it can't get through that highway because it's destroyed right now. Very little can get through. So until that highway is rebuilt or they find some better routes around it through the Rockies, that container is unfortunately stuck at port still. I'm really sorry to deliver that bad news. I would love to get that game to you. I know you ordered it 3 weeks ago, or that expansion, you ordered it 3 weeks ago. You're eager to get it. I really appreciate that, and we will get it to you as soon as we can possibly get it out of that port. Let's see. I missed a question there. Donald says that he got his boys got him arts and architecture for Christmas. He can't wait to play it this weekend. That's awesome. I hope you have fun with that, Donald. Tony says, how about Hawkeye? Yeah, oh yeah, Hawkeye. We're definitely, well, yeah, we'll have to figure out what to do there because we have Hawkeye coming out today and Matrix Resurrection. So maybe we'll do Hawkeye at lunch and we'll do Matrix at dinner. Also, Jim Gaffigan just came out with a new special on Netflix, and we love Jim Gaffigan, so we'll have to watch that very soon. And last Wednesday, I almost forgot, we watched it last Friday, was the Survivor finale. I'm still loving Survivor. This was season 41, and it was a pretty cool finale. They did some different things in this finale that I really enjoyed. Obviously, no spoilers here if you haven't watched it, but yeah, it was a fun season of Survivor. Very emotional season. Yeah. Dusty says that he's playing Role Player Adventure over the holidays, something I can't talk about, and something he can't talk about yet, and he wants to try The Crew. He's only heard good things. Which version of The Crew are you going to play, Dusty? And I hope you enjoy Role Player Adventures. I know you've started a little bit. We have now finished the 11-game campaign of Role Player Adventures. We absolutely loved it, and I now have a friend who's borrowing it, and I'm curious to see if he and his wife love it as much as Megan and I did. Justin says that his friend gathering this weekend, he has a friend gathering this weekend, and they're playing Seven Wonders, Architects, and Rolling Realms are listed so far. Cool. Happy to see one of our games on that list. And I actually just played Seven Wonders, Architects on Board Game Arena the other day. I'd love to play that in person, though, because I think like the building of the wonders is a really cool feature of it. And it doesn't quite come across the same way in terms of the tactile nature of it on the screen. So yeah, it's a very relaxing game. Like it doesn't require a lot of thought really, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like if I would just want to relax for 20 minutes, that's probably a game that I would move towards or gravitate towards. Pat says that Scythe was his introduction to Stonemaier games. He says, I also had the opportunity to play a 7-player Scythe game, which was phenomenal. That's awesome, Pat. Those larger group games don't always work out, so I'm glad you had a good experience with it. He says, I wanted to thank you guys for the amazing experience. Thank you. His question, would I be able to get replacement or updated achievement sheets? For the achievement sheets, Pat, probably. So I appreciate you asking about that. I'm trying to think of what we officially do for them. I think for them, since it's just a single piece of paper, I think our preference is that you just go to our website and print it out. We have the sheets listed on our website, so you can go to. I guess for Scythe, you're looking for the achievement sheet. If you go to the Scythe website, you should see a link to the achievement sheets, and you can just print it out. I think that's probably more cost effective and environmentally responsible than us mailing you a single piece of paper from across the country. So that would be our preference if you're okay with that, just to print it off from our website and use that version. Yeah. Tim says that he'll be happy playing more Charterstone this weekend if he can, and he's looking forward to playing Cubitos and Dune Imperium. Yeah, Cubitos, kind of an early 2022 release or 2021 release that hopefully hasn't been forgotten for some of those top 10 lists of the year. I know it's in consideration for mine. I don't know if it'll quite make it, but it is in consideration for mine. Tim says that it seems like his two cats are spiteful where they leave their hairballs. Fortunately, Biddy doesn't have hairballs. It's just Walter that has the hairballs. Jay also asked for an update on Canadian fulfillment. Yeah, I mentioned it a few times, but I'm happy to answer it again. Basically, the container is still stuck at port because it cannot get through the Canadian Rockies due to the mudslides that have wiped out and destroyed some of the roads there. And so I know you're 3 weeks into having pre-ordered at this point. I do appreciate your patience, and we will get it to you as soon as we possibly can. Yeah. Frank says that he'd love to see Biddy and Yana. Yana is a fully healthy 3-year-old cat, but it weighs just under 6 pounds. Oh, wow. So she's just a third of Biddy. That's a tiny little cat, Frank. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see Yana and Biddy next to each other. David says that he's working on a game about running a board game cafe and attracting players. Are there any games like that already? Games about running a board game cafe. There are games about running cafes, but not board games specifically that I'm aware of. But maybe someone else in the comments can chime in if they if they know of a game that does that. It's also okay to design a game that has the same theme as another game that already exists, as long as you do something unique and innovative with it, in my opinion. Alex says, have I checked out the fan-made realms and the Rolling Realms Facebook group? Are there any good ones to explore further from your point of view? Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many clever fan-made realms in the Rolling Realms group and on Board Game Geek. There's a big collection on Board Game Geek right now. I see all of them. I look at all of them, and when I see one that has mechanisms and a game that really excites me, I have reached out to multiple publishers to see if they would be okay with us doing that, and we give them some compensation for the rights to do that in Rolling Realms. Currently, we have in progress. How many do we have? We have over a dozen promo realms in the works right now, most of which are in conjunction with other publishers, and many of which have come from those fan realms. So, and the fans know about it. If you designed a fan-made realm and we are using some part of that as inspiration for the final version, you know about it. You've heard from me about it, and I feel free to continue to create them because I love seeing your creations. And we definitely can't get the rights to everything, and we can't make promo realms for everything. But I love that they exist, and I love the options are out there. So yeah, they're really, really cool. Really cool to check out if you are interested in trying some, even if you just want to play them and play test them and see what you think and offer some feedback to those designers. Yeah, some great creativity there. Joshua says for the holidays he's going to play Tapestry Arts and Architecture, like you mentioned earlier, Moonrakers, which I need to play. I've never played Moonrakers. And they're going to also set up an epic side game with painted minis. We haven't done that yet. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'll be, hopefully you'll post some photos about that, Joshua. I love seeing sides with the painted minis on the table. Jay says that the main roads have reopened. That sounds a little bit different than what some other people said above. Tim and Madison said something a little differently there, Jay, above in the comments. Some people from Canada who are chiming in. But I'm certainly open to, that's great news if that's the case. Just getting mixed messages about that. I'm just giving you the information that I'm hearing from people in Canada. And from our actual fulfillment partner, they keep telling us that the road that they haven't been able to get it out of port yet. So that's and ultimately it comes down to that. If our freight provider can't get it out of port, that's what we're waiting on. Let's see. Ivan says there was one game about selling board games that I can't remember the name of. Tom Vassell has reviewed it. Yeah, there are some games about selling games. There's one called Shelf Stacker that's about organizing games on your shelf. There's a few about running game conventions or running game companies, but running a board game cafe specifically, I don't know if there's a board game about that topic. Oh, but Frank has one here. He says Board Game Cafe Frenzy from the Wood Games in Taiwan. So Frank is aware of it. Thank you, Frank, for sharing that. Pat says, what are my cats' names and their personalities? So Biddy is the one behind me right now. He is around 15 years old. He's a big boy. He's very food motivated. He's also very people motivated. He likes to engage with people. He does not care about other cats at all. Walter is Walter sleeps a lot. He also loves playing with ribbons and little ball toys. He just got a ball toy for Christmas the other day that he's really loving. One of those things where the ball goes around and around. He loves that. Otherwise, he is a very cuddly and calm, sleepy cat. Very long hair. He's around 12 years old. That's Biddy and Walter, my two cats. You can see many, many photos of them if you look at Instagram at Jamey Stegmeyer. I post photos of my cats there every Saturday. Tony says that his group played Star Wars Outer Rim last night. He says, I seem to remember you mentioned you enjoyed it, but I actually haven't played it. No, I haven't played Outer Rim. He says, but I also heard you say that pick up and deliver games are not your favorite. Is that true? What's an example of a game type that you don't usually enjoy, but an IP that might get you to try it? Let me answer that a slightly different way, Tony, because you're right. Pick up and deliver games don't usually excite me because they are typically kind of flat. Like you get the stuff to do the delivery and then you do it and then you haven't advanced in any way. You haven't progressed in any way after that. However, a recently played game that I played called Maglev Metro really broke out of that mold because every time you deliver something in Maglev Metro, you add that person or that robot to your player mat and you improve your engine, which I thought was a really, really clever innovation there for Maglev Metro. So I don't know if Outer Rim does that, if it has that sense of progression every time you complete the delivery. If not, I don't know if I'd love it, but I do love the Star Wars theme. I'm happy to try anything once, any game once. But yeah, Maglev Metro, if you like pick up deliver and want that sense of engine building and progression, I think it does a fantastic job at it. Yeah, but I'll make a note about Outer Rim. Dexter says that the IM's hairball cat food works well for his fluffy overlords. Well, that's good to know. Walter does have a special food that he gets related to some urinary problems that he had a couple of years ago. So I can't switch up his food, but I'm glad that works well for your cats. That's great. Let me see if I missed anything to talk about today. Some topics that I covered already is that I saw Spider-Man, really enjoyed it. I did blog post about future visions of GameFound versus Kickstarter. Also, I did a year in a review post for Stonemaier Games. And my video this past week was about top 10 games I recommend if you love viticulture. I recently played Floating World, Ark Nova, Floriferous, Isle of Skye, and Honeybuzz. I had recent chats with the Cardboard Herald and the Dukes of Dice. I don't know if either are live yet, though. I did mention that I played disc golf this past weekend. That's pretty much a weekly thing on the weekend for me, and I had a great time doing that. And, one question I wanted to ask all of you. Oh, and we launched the U.S. web store today. I wanted to ask all of you, you asked what games you're playing. What games are you giving over the holidays? What games have you decided, this is a gift that I want to give someone? Let me know what gifts you are, or what games you are giving over the next week, or have already given over the holiday season. I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Mike says, in Tapestry, the question mark seems like a bad roll a higher percentage of the time because there's nothing on most spaces on the board. Getting a resource is so important. Why didn't you give the spaces on the board a resource or make the question mark get any resource you want or the tile? Yeah, there's actually a very specific reason for that, Mike. It's meant to encourage players to go to territory or to look at territories that basically it's to encourage players to branch out because the starting territories. You said there's nothing on most spaces on the board. Yeah, that's actually not true. On the board, yes, but as the board develops via the tiles, the majority of the board will be covered with spaces that have those resources. So I wanted to encourage players to actually spread out and conquer, to explore and then conquer. There's that risk reward there. Like if you don't do that, then you're stuck conquering places that you already know about that don't have any resources there. Whereas with the question mark, you're incentivized to explore at least a little bit so that you can conquer territories where you have the potential of getting the special bonus on that tile. So yeah, that was something I thought about very specifically in the design. I wanted to encourage players not just to conquer, but also to explore a little bit. And it gives you a choice there. Like, right? Do you just conquer the territories that are right next to you that don't have anything on them? Or do you wait to first explore a little bit and then try to conquer those territories? So a couple different levels to decision making there. And also, we gave players 2 dice to roll. And so even if you do roll that question mark on a tile that doesn't have a resource, you can then instead choose to gain, or you would probably need to gain the benefit on the other die as well. So yeah, that's kind of the couple different levels to that decision making and that outcome there. So even if you roll a question mark, there is another option for you to gain there. You're not entirely stuck. Jay says that it looks like the highway is linked to an article saying that the highway reopened 1 day ago. Okay, that's great news, Jay. I'm glad the highway is back open. That's great news. Obviously, there's a lot of backup at port. It's not just Stonemaier Games. There's a lot that's going to be backed up there, and will take a while to actually get out of port. But that is great news. I mean, that's a good sign. I would say that probably means that we're still a couple weeks away. Here, I just got an email from Canada as well. So yeah, I literally just got an email. Let's see what Justin says. He says he just touched base with Canada about it. Terribly sorry for the delay. Vancouver has really been hurting since the mudslides and bad weather, on top of congestion that already existed. Totally, holiday congestion has been really bad at all ports. He says, I think sometimes when an event like this happens, it can be hard for the carriers and vendors involved to get caught up. It's a long email, so I'm skimming through it a little bit right now. He says the terminal is very backlogged and thus has not gotten moving to Calgary yet. And it looks like one of the containers, I don't know if this is the one that has Tapestry Arts and Architecture in it, but it says it looks like it has arrived into the container freight station. So different levels of when it gets to port, when it's actually unloaded off the ships. He says, but the container has not been devanned yet, so it's sitting in the yard waiting for its turn to be unloaded by the terminal, all related to the backlog. Okay, so the good news is they actually know where the containers are. That I was starting to get a little worried about. However, there is now a huge backlog because that highway was closed for a month, and we are going to be a part of that backlog for probably at least a few weeks. Yeah, but I'm very glad to hear the highway is reopened. That's great news. Yeah. Chad says that a buddy of his purchased Rise of Fenris and opened all of the boxes before playing the campaign. He says it broke his heart that he didn't mind spoiling the campaign. Yeah, me too, a little bit. I mean, the boxes are not meant to be opened before. There's so many people that open. I mean, we've gotten so many requests about one of the boxes. If you played Rise of Fenris, you know what I'm talking about. Where people open the box and like, oh, something's missing, and I'm like, A, why did you open the box? And B, it's not missing. It looks like it is, but it actually isn't. We've gotten that request many, many times. With the point being that it's one of those games where you shouldn't open those boxes before you start playing the campaign. Philip says, have I tried out the game Oltree? Oltree. It has an interesting take on narrative-based games that fit on a single card. I haven't, but I love interesting takes on narrative games, especially when you can fit it on a card and not refer to a storybook, although I don't mind storybooks. I'm using some of them, or I have used them in the Rise of Fenris. So yeah, I'll check that out. Thanks for that recommendation. I love how the King's Dilemma. King's Dilemma fits all the text on the cards. You don't need to refer to a storybook in the King's Dilemma. Chad says, every time you deliver stuff in Star Wars Outer Rim, you can upgrade your character and your ship so you can do bigger and better things. Okay, well, that sells me. As long as there's a sense of progression in a pick up and deliver game, I am interested in it. Yeah, that's really cool. Alex says that he's planning to play Rolling Realms and Nouvelle Contrée, a cooperative game that relies on reading abstract from a book in your own library and fulfilling a mission, in French only at the moment. Very interesting. Reading an abstract from a book in your own library. Yeah, that's really different. I haven't heard of that. I'll be very curious to see how that plays. George is giving someone Between Two Castles. Stonemaier game. Thank you, George, for doing that. And Tony's hoping to get the King's Dilemma game that I just mentioned from Santa Wife. He says Donald and his 14-year-old and 10-year-old just got into Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They're getting stuff for that. And he says, and I thought board gaming was an expensive hobby. Yeah, I never got into collectible miniature gaming, but I have heard that is quite expensive. Nathan says that he usually tries to get a Mega Civ game to the table with 10 plus players. He says it's been a couple of years, but we're hopeful. Have you played? I have not played. Now, that's one game, I mean, it's way longer than a game that I think I would generally enjoy, but it is the type of game that I'd like to play once and see what that experience is like. I've heard it's a really, really epic experience to have a lot of, I've heard the trading part of Mega Civ is the really special part, and I look forward to trying that someday, but I haven't played it. David says Yukon Airways is another pickup deliver game with upgrades. You should try it if you haven't. I'll check out that too. Yeah, Outer Rim. I want to see how that works. And Yukon Airways. Awesome. Great recommendations here. Ivan says, any expansions or add-ons for Red Rising in the future? Most likely, yes. We've started to talk about it a little bit, but we don't have anything in the works yet. It'll probably be a little while. We were hoping to wait until book 6 came out, but if we do that, it means that the whatever we make for it, the expansion, the spin-off, the promos, whatever we make for it, wouldn't come out for like almost a year after that. If we waited until the book 6 to read and before we even started designing it. So we might get a little bit of a head start on that. John says that he gave viticulture to his wife's godson, I believe is what you were typing there, John. Yeah, well, thank you so much for giving viticulture to someone. He says he lives far from us, but he found out that he's into board games when we recently attended his wedding. Or you found out that. I see, and you corrected godson below. Got it. That's awesome. That's really cool. I hope he enjoys viticulture. Tim says he's giving Atlantis Rising, Cascadia, Furnace, Rome, and the Isle of Skye with both expansions. Also got some viticulture metal coins and wine glasses. Oh yeah, I almost forgot that we have those wine glasses on our web store. I always forget about that. Kind of a thing that started way back when we had the original viticulture Kickstarter. I would not recommend including glass in Kickstarter projects, fun fact, but we still make those wine glasses, and we still sell them on our web store. And they're actually pretty nice stemless wine glasses. Jeff says, Rolling Realms and So Clover make for great gifts, 2 of his favorites this year. Thanks, Jeff. And then David is giving Obsession to a friend. He says, hoping to appear on a future live stream. Cool. Yeah, Obsession is a game that I played for the first time at Geekway to the West convention a few months ago, and it actually got to the table at our game day this past weekend, but I was busy in a game of Ark Nova. But it was delightful to listen to people playing Obsession. People who get really into Obsession are just a lot of fun, I think, to listen to as they're playing the game. Obsession, if you don't know, is a fairly heavy Euro game, themed kind of like in the Downton Abbey era. And so, it's chock full of theme. Like every element of the game is designed based on the theme of the game. And Dan Halligan at K-Enta Games did a fantastic job of that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to listen to people play it or to play it yourself. I'm looking forward to playing it soon too, because we now have a copy on our shelf. Mark says he's currently playing Tapestry with Plans and Ploys and Arts and Architecture expansions right now. Right now, he's actually playing literally right now. That's awesome, Mark. I hope you're having fun. He says he's amazed by how the arts track adds another dimension of strategy to the game. Cool. Yeah, it does. I love what Mike came up with that. Chad says his buddy said that he was already really spoiled by the Scythe Facebook group. I see. I wonder if it would be beneficial to have a separate Rise of Fenris closed group that warns of spoilers before entering. Then the Rise of Fenris post can be deleted from the regular Scythe group. Yeah, we considered that a while ago. I think it's nice to have them all consolidated, but yeah, we try to keep an eye on that and to either remove posts or to ask people right away to hide the photos, things like that. But I know it's tough. I know it's hard to, a quick glance and you're spoiled at something in that group. So that is a rough element of spoilers in games in general, that if you're excited to post about them, you might be spoiling it for someone else. So I think it's good to keep in mind to put it behind a spoiler shield, put it in the comments instead of the main post, things like that. And I always appreciate when people are considerate about spoilers in that way. Tim says he's hoping to pick up Obsession next month, and he has Planet Unknown coming. Yeah, I got a lot of flack recently. I played Planet Unknown at Geekway, not realizing that it had experienced considerable delays from the Kickstarter. And I got a bunch of people chiming into the comments saying, like, why are you talking about this? It hasn't been delivered to us yet. And I was just a play and win game at a convention that I played. So I hope that finally Planet Unknown is being delivered to backers everywhere. Rafa says, have I played Glenmore 2 Chronicles with any of the 8 expansions which come with the base game? If so, which one was your favorite? I have both. I love Glenmore 2. It was one of my favorite games from last year. I still have not played through all of the modules in the core game, and I haven't even opened the expansion yet to get to those either yet. So at some point I need to, and I'm curious to see what you think or anyone who's played those expansions, if there's one that I should just try out first, that I should jump to and jump in and give it a try. I definitely Glenmore 2 is not a game where I felt like anything was lacking from just the core base game. But I do appreciate what they do with the modules as well. So if there's any module that you think is just really, really fun in either the core game or the expansion, let me know, and I'll maybe make a note of that to play with it the next time I play Glenmore 2. I think that's it so far today. I've covered all the topics that I wanted to cover twice now, and it's been wonderful to hear from all of you of the games that you're excited to play, the games that you're giving for the holidays. Love to hear both sides of that. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday break if you get a break for the holidays. If not, if you're working, I hope that you're having fun at work, or at least earning some money from work. That's good too. Sometimes you just have to grind through. Oh, let's see. A few more comments here about The Hunger. Ivan says that Richard Garfield emerged on the scene again with The Hunger. And yeah, I did see that recently. Tim says that he thought the game was in stock. Oh no, he was talking about Planet Unknown. He thought it was in stock when he played it at Geekway, but the shipping crisis has its delays. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and put this video on YouTube. If you have any thoughts afterward that you want to post on the YouTube version of the video, you're welcome to do that. That's where I'll see comments in the future. But have a great holiday weekend and week. And I'll see you before the New Year's, though. So I'll chime in about that, about the New Year's. Happy New Year's before the New Year's. All right, take care. Have a great Wednesday. I'll see you later. Bye.